If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to see how far our little stories travel. Every voice matters here. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you won't miss tomorrow's special story. It's one that might just stay with you for a long time. We post heartfelt tales every day, and your support keeps them coming. So, grab a warm drink, stay a while, and join our growing family of listeners from around the world. See you in the next story. It was just another ordinary Thursday morning at the Hayes Financial Tower in Manhattan. The glass doors slid open, letting in a gust of warm spring air, and the receptionist glanced up, expecting a courier or maybe a client arriving early. But instead, there she was, a small figure, no taller than the desk, wearing a faded pink hoodie 2 sizes too big and clutching a bright blue folder covered in stickers. Her name was Sophie Blake, and she was only 9 years old. No one quite knew how she'd gotten past security. Maybe it was her quiet confidence, or the way she walked like she had every right to be there. Maybe someone held the door open, thinking her mother would follow behind. But no one did. She came alone. The receptionist leaned forward, concerned. "Sweetheart, are you lost?" Sophie shook her head. "No, Ma'am. I'm here to see Mr. Julian Hayes. I have a job application." There was a moment of silence, a beat of disbelief, before someone let out a nervous laugh. This had to be a prank, right? But Sophie didn't laugh. She simply opened her folder and held it up, revealing a resume written in colored pencil. Each section had a different crayon color. Red for her name, purple for her skills, green for experience, and a golden star sticker at the top that read, "Hard worker." The receptionist didn't know what to say. She took the folder, slowly, flipping through it with a mix of awe and heartache. The skills listed were things like makes mac and cheese by herself, reads bedtime stories to Leo, and hugs people when they're sad. Her experience. Helping Mom when she cries, babysitting little brother, and cleaning the car when we sleep in it. "I just need 5 minutes," Sophie said softly. "Please. I have to try." There was something in her voice that stopped the usual flow of the morning. Phones kept ringing, emails kept chiming, but everyone nearby suddenly paused. The receptionist hesitated, then made the call. Upstairs, on the 40th floor, Julian Hayes, CEO, investor, man known for being as sharp as the suits he wore, answered his assistant's knock with a raised eyebrow. "There's a child here to see you," she said. "She has a resume." Julian laughed, thinking it was a publicity stunt, or maybe some campaign thing he'd forgotten to approve. But when Sophie stepped into the room, small shoes squeaking against the polished floor, hands trembling just a little, but chin held high, something in Julian's expression changed. He didn't see a joke. He saw something real. Something that, for a moment, made him forget the stock market numbers on his screen. A child. A resume. A reason. And in that instant, the story of Sophie Blake truly began. Julian didn't say a word at first. He looked at her. This tiny girl standing in front of his massive desk like it was no more intimidating than a lemonade stand. Her eyes scanned the office walls, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the framed newspaper articles and awards. But she didn't look overwhelmed. Just focused. Like she had a mission. Still holding that blue folder, Sophie stepped forward and gently placed it on his desk. "This is my resume," she said. Her voice was steady, but there was a slight quiver, just enough to remind him she was still a child. Julian slowly opened the folder, half expecting a joke. But there it was, exactly as his assistant had described. A resume written entirely, in colored pencil, filled with innocence and heartbreak, all packed into a few lines. Under skills, she had written, "Can make mac and cheese without burning it, most times. Good at giving hugs when people cry, can take care of Leo when Mum works at night. Very quiet, so I won't bother people." Then came the experience section. Babysits Leo, age 3. Every night, knows how to fold laundry and sweep floors. Helped Mum fix the car window with duct tape. stayed quiet in the shelter so we could stay longer. Each line hit harder than the last. Julian turned to the final section, where Sophie had written, "Why I want this job," in green crayon. "Because my mum is really tired. We don't have a house anymore. I want to help. I can work after school and I won't be in the way." He swallowed hard. Sophie stood there, still. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was offering to be useful, to carry a burden no 9-year-old should ever carry. That's what cracked something open in Julian's chest. "You're 9 years old," he finally said gently. "You're not supposed to be worrying about money or rent or jobs." She looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm not supposed to be sleeping in the car either, but here we are." The room fell completely silent. Julian leaned back in his chair. For a moment, he wasn't the CEO anymore. He wasn't a billionaire. He was a father. A man who once lived through nights of hunger and silence, who once watched his own mother skip meals so he could eat. It had been decades, but in that moment, it came rushing back. He looked down at her resume one more time, then back at Sophie. "I think," he said slowly, "you might be the most qualified applicant I've ever met." And just like that, something shifted, not just in that office, but in Julian himself. He didn't know it yet, but this little girl with a crayon-written resume was about to change his life forever. Julian sat in silence, staring at the last page of Sophie's resume. The room felt heavier now, the kind of silence that wraps around your chest and doesn't let go. He ran a hand over his face, trying to collect himself. Sophie, still standing, watched him carefully, unsure if she'd said too much or not enough. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, then took a breath. "My mum says I shouldn't have come," she said, eyes lowered. "She said grown-ups don't care about little kids' problems, but I thought maybe you might." Julian looked up. "Why me?" he asked. "Out of everyone in the world, why did you come here?" She hesitated, then replied quietly, "Because you used to be poor. I saw a video where you said that. I thought maybe you'd understand." That was it. The sentence, the one that cracked him open completely. Julian's eyes welled up, and he quickly turned away, pretending to check his monitor. But there was no hiding it. That one sentence, so simple, so honest, had reached a part of him he thought he'd buried years ago. He turned back to her slowly, voice soft. "Tell me the truth, Sophie. Are you and your mum living in your car right now?" She nodded, her lip trembling now. "We parked behind a church, but the police came last night and said we can't stay there anymore. We just drive around. A lot now. Mum's trying, but she keeps losing jobs, and she cries a lot. She thinks I don't see it, but I do." Her small hands clenched into fists at her sides. "I thought, if I got a job, even just a little one, maybe we could stay at a motel, just for a few nights, somewhere with a bathroom and a real bed." Julian felt like the air had been sucked from the room. He'd heard thousands of pitches in this office, startups, tech bros, investors in suits, but none of them had ever delivered anything half as powerful as what this little girl had just laid on his desk. He stood up slowly and walked around the desk, crouching down so he was at her eye level. "You shouldn't have to carry this," he said gently. "You shouldn't be trying to fix things that grown-ups broke. But you did something incredibly brave, Sophie. And I promise you, I'm going to help." She blinked, confused. "Does that mean I got the job?" Julian smiled, a tear slipping down his cheek. "It means your life's about to change, starting now." He picked up the phone and made the first of many calls. First, to his legal team, then to a friend who ran a local women's shelter, then to his driver. And as Sophie sat on the plush leather couch in the corner of the room, clutching a cup of hot cocoa the assistant had brought her, for the first time in a long while, she felt safe. Tomorrow could wait. For now, hope had finally walked through the door. That night, Julian, didn't go home. He sat alone in his office long after the lights in the building had dimmed, Sophie's crayon-written resume still sitting open on his desk. He stared at it like it was a blueprint to a life he had nearly forgotten. The hot cocoa cup she left behind was still half full. Cool now, but untouched, like she didn't believe she'd be allowed to enjoy it for real. Julian leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. And that's when the memories hit him like a freight train. He was 8 again, sitting in the back seat of his mother's old rusted-out Chevy, shivering under a thin blanket as rain tapped against the windows. His mother's hands were wrapped tightly around the steering wheel, her face turned away, trying not to let him see her cry. They were parked outside a laundromat that night, because it stayed open 24 hours, and at least the lights made it feel safer. That was the night Julian had promised himself. If I ever make it out of this, I'm going to build something so no one I love will ever feel this cold again. And yet, all these years later, it was Sophie Blake, a girl with nothing but stickers and hope, who reminded him of that vow. The next morning, he met Sophie and her mother, Rachel Blake, in the lobby of a midtown hotel. He had already booked them a room for a month, stocked it with groceries, toys for Leo, and a small journal with Sophie's name embossed in gold on the cover. Rachel stood there, tired and cautious. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "What do you want in return?" Julian looked her in the eyes and said, "Nothing. I just know what it feels like to have nowhere to go. And I know what it means when someone reaches out without asking. For anything." Tears welled in Rachel's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She simply nodded, pulling Sophie close. But Julian wasn't done. He walked them into the hotel suite and handed Rachel a job offer, administrative coordinator at one of his non-profit branches with a starting salary of $52,000 per year and full benefits. Flexible hours, paid childcare. Rachel nearly dropped the folder. "I don't even know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to," Julian replied. "Just breathe. You've been holding it in too long." Sophie beamed, holding Leo's hand, and for the first time in a long while, her little brother actually smiled. As Julian stood in the doorway, watching them settle in, he realized something else. This wasn't just about charity. It was about remembering who you were before the world gave you a title, and making sure no one else had to fight that hard alone. He didn't just see his past in Sophie. He saw his purpose, and from that moment on, he knew this was only the beginning. The story of Sophie Blake didn't end at that hotel room. In fact, that's where it truly began. News of what happened, of the little girl who walked into a millionaire CEO's office with a crayon resume, spread faster than anyone could have predicted. It started with a hotel employee who snapped a photo of Sophie and her mum in the lobby, captioned simply, "She came in with nothing but hope. She's leaving with a future." That single post exploded online. Within 48 hours, local media picked up the story. Then national outlets, morning shows, talk shows, podcasts. Everyone wanted to know more about the girl who dared to ask, and the man who actually said yes. Julian Hayes didn't plan on going public. He didn't do it for attention. But when he saw the world responding, not with mockery, but with compassion, he realized he had an opportunity, a responsibility, a chance to do something bigger than writing a check. So he launched the Sophie Blake Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to helping families in crisis, single parents on the edge, kids forced to grow up too fast, mothers sleeping in cars while trying to hold down 2 jobs. Within its first week, the foundation raised over $2.5 million in private donations, and Sophie, she wasn't just the face of the movement, she was the voice. With her mum by her side, she spoke on national television, shy at first, but growing braver each time. She didn't use fancy words. She didn't need to. All she said was what she knew. Sometimes kids know what's going on. We just don't always get to say anything. But we see it, we feel it, and we just want to help. People listened. More than that, people acted. Hotels across the country offered emergency shelter, vouchers. Companies pledged job opportunities for single parents. Even schools started partnerships to create kid support kits, backpacks filled with essentials for students in unstable housing situations. Julian watched it all unfold from his office, the same place where Sophie had first stood, trembling but determined. And one morning, as he looked out over the city skyline, his assistant walked in with a letter. No return address, just a note written in crayon. It said, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Love, Sophie." He kept that note framed on his desk. Years later, people would still talk about Sophie Blake, about how one child's courage reminded an entire nation what it means to care, about how a billionaire remembered what it felt like to have nothing, and how a simple act of kindness turned into a movement that gave thousands the one thing they'd lost: hope. And that's the real legacy. Not just the money, the headlines, or the foundation, but one little girl holding a blue folder who walked into the world and changed it, with nothing more than a voice, a dream, and the courage to speak. If this story moved you, even just a little, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Take a moment to leave a comment below. What part of Sophie's journey touched you the most? Have you ever seen someone so young, yet so brave, make such a powerful impact? Or maybe you've been through something similar, and this reminded you of a time when a little kindness changed everything. Your words matter, not just to us, but to everyone watching. This space isn't just for stories, it's for connection. So don't be shy. Tell us where you're watching from, share your feelings, or simply leave a heart if that's all you can say right now. And if this reminded you that there's still good in the world, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's story. Every day, we share true tales of courage, kindness, and the human spirit. And your support helps us keep them alive. Scroll down, type your heart out. We're reading every single one. Because just like Sophie, sometimes all it takes is one voice to make a difference.